So we have 3 new helicopters viewing a marathon. We have helicopters X, Y, and Z. So the first piece of information we're going to start with is the bearing from X to Z is 135 degrees. So if I start with X here, make a bearing, 135 degrees is 135 degrees from the north. So this is going to be point Z. And we're going to assume Y is somewhere over here. Doesn't really matter, but okay. So the bearing part is done. Now we need, let's see, the helicopters X and Y are 10 kilometers apart. So that's this one over here. Y and Z are also 10 kilometers apart. Okay. So we want to see how far is the distance between X and Z, which we'll call D for distance. Okay, so one thing we have to keep in mind here is that this angle, this total angle is 135 degrees. So what's remaining is 180 minus 135, which is 45 degrees. And whenever you're doing bearings like these, it's always going to be the alternate angle here. It's going to be also, so like these two angles are going to be the same. Okay, so now we just want to find length D. This is where we have to use the law of cosines. So in general, law of cosines is c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of angle C. In our case, I know angle 45, so I need to use cosine of angle 45, which happens to be z. So this outside has to be z squared. Okay, and then you're going to have z squared, which is really 10 squared. Right? So that's equal to 10 squared plus d squared. So that's the other 10 squared over here. Minus 2 times 10 times d. So the 10 squares are going to cancel. I get 0 is equal to d squared minus 2 times 10d, so that's 20d. Cosine 45 is root 2 over 2. So I'm going to bring the d squared to the other side, so I get d squared equals 10 root 2d. I'm going to divide both sides by d to get 10 root 2, and I'm allowed to divide by d because d here cannot be 0. Because if d is 0, the distance between x and z, well, will be 0, which means that they're the same point. So I'm allowed to do that and get that the distance is 10 root 2 kilometers.